Hey guys, all right, I've got a great Q&A session coming up. I've got a handful of questions and I'm going to hop right into it right now. Let's get started. Again from Marketing Food Online. I hope you guys are having a great day as always. And before we get started, if you are new into the channel, this is Marketing Food Online. I bring together a bunch of fantastic food business resources to help you get your food business either on retail store shelves or online, or create a food product and get them up and running. So if you are not subscribed, as always, you can hit that magical red button on the corner there and hit the subscription button, and you can check out all of our videos. We've got about 500 plus videos to help you create your food business. And again, if you're wondering what the heck all this stuff is behind me, my son has a couple YouTube channels, and this is our YouTube room. We're in the process of shooting some videos, so I've got a bunch of lights and shelves and stuff like that back there. So sorry about that for right now. I want to get into some of these questions. I've got a particular question, and this is actually a really great question from a subscriber in regards to Cottage Food Law. Most of the food businesses that I actually help with, as far as my clients are concerned with my consulting, are those that are utilizing the Cottage Food Law. And that is actually the laws that allow you to create food products at home and you can sell them locally. Some states, very few, but some states actually allow you as well to sell online. So if you're looking to start a food business from home, you would actually kind of fall underneath what's known as Cottage Food Law. Now, this is a great question because it can be a little bit confusing. To let you know, the Cottage Food Laws by state will vary. It is not something that is a blanket across every state. It's always the same. The states create the laws of the types of foods that they'll allow through the Cottage Food Law. But as it trickles down into the cities and the counties, they can actually create ordinances and other additional rules or regulations in those cities and counties that you also have to abide by. So just keep that in mind as you go to get your license, or if you get your permit, or if you get an inspection, or you get signed up with the Department of Agriculture or the Health Department. All of those different things come into play, and it's not really exactly one particular law that follows every single state. So I'm going to use just my subscribers' first names. I won't get into any last names, but this is from Anna. And it's actually a great, like I said, a wonderful question. She said, so if I operate as a cottage food producer, the registration gives me permission to sell without a business license. But if I decide to form a corporation, why do I need to follow Cottage Food Laws? This is actually in regards to displaying personal information, name and addresses on the label. Really quick recap, if you're producing a food product from your home, there's certain bits of information that must be on the label. And again, that mostly varies by state. When it comes to the labeling, it's pretty much the same across all states. But it does have a few states that vary as to the extent of the information. A lot of times the address is there for a reason, and it's actually there for traceability in case someone were to get sick, or if they have an issue and they need to find out where was this produced or where was it made. You got to have some address on there so they can contact the manufacturer, which is you. Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to putting information, contact information on labels of products produced in a home, you would have to follow the Cottage Food Laws, and it normally dictates an address such as your home address as far as the origin of the production of the process of where it's made. Okay. Now, the thing is, when you become a business, whether or not you're under Cottage Food Law or any other types of laws, regulations, you want to make sure that you are a licensed business, because you need to get your tax information as well from the state. You need to form a company, and there's a reason for that, and it really boils down to liability, because in order for you to get food producers liability insurance, you need to be a business in order for that to happen. Most states will require you to have a business license. Some states do not. Now, is that an optional thing that you can do? Yes, in some states when you don't have it required by the state. I personally, as my recommendation, and this is just my opinion, you need to incorporate yourself to separate yourself. You should not be operating a food business of any kind from your home where you've got no legal fallback and insurance to protect yourself. For instance, if you do not create yourself as a business of any kind and you don't have insurance and you're utilizing Cottage Food Law and you're following all the rules and regulations, that are in your specific state, and somebody were to get sick, you could lose your house. You could lose everything you own because they will sue you personally. That's the reality of it. Now, if you want to create a LLC or C Corp or S Corp, however you want to do that, I would recommend you do that so you get protection. Insurance companies will not write a policy unless you traditionally have yourself incorporated. If you're just making cookies and breads and some things from your house and you're selling them at little local events, that's always good and dandy, but there will come a time when potentially you can have someone sue you. And if they do, and you're not a business separated from a business entity and separate from personal, you can lose everything that you have. So whether or not your state requires it, it's going to be up to you to make the decision to protect yourself. That's why I always try to recommend, for the most part, if you're working from home, still figure out a way to get yourself as a business entity and then personal separate. Okay. As far as the label is concerned, and if you have to abide by the Cottage Food Law in your state, every state is different, like I mentioned, but they're going to require some type of address. And normally you can't put a P.O. box because that's not where your product is produced. So you have to end up putting your home address as the address of the production of the product. Okay. So, and like I said, this is just for informational purposes. Every state is different, okay? So double check with your specific county and city and then figure out what is recommended and what they require, okay? Requirements and recommendations are two totally different things. I personally would never take a chance on doing that. When I first started, we actually had a retail bakery, which is, of course, not from home. It was a complete retail bakery that we had breads and gelato and other things, sandwiches. We had a whole thing, an Italian bakery my wife and I had. So that was obviously a different, separate physical address because it was a business. And then after we had closed that and then transitioned into selling locally before we went back into another commercial place, I had incorporated myself immediately and then made sure I had insurance because I wanted to protect my family. So definitely recommend doing that. Okay. So yeah, the next thing I have up here, this is another great question. You guys have actually been sending some really good questions, and I'm glad you're asking. And by the way, if you're still watching the video, let me know down below if you have any other questions. I love answering your questions and creating these videos with you guys asking these things because a lot of subscribers ask the same questions. Okay, this one was really good, and I got it just recently. Okay, there it is. Okay, so this gentleman he has a hot pepper sauce that he's been doing from his home. So he grows the hot peppers. He actually makes the hot sauce from scratch. He's been doing it now for about 8 years, and his friends and family love the sauces, and he's actually had such great feedback. Of course, that's what normally food businesses get when you first start from home, is all that feedback, and that motivates you to start your business, which I highly recommend you do. So he wants to get into a co-packer and have him do it for him, but wants to know that he doesn't have any sales history. Okay, so really quick rundown. Co-packers and private label companies don't necessarily always require that. It's not a requirement for them just to produce a product. The co-packer is there you got to keep this in mind. They're there to bring together the ingredients, the packaging, the labeling, and to make for you a food product of some kind, okay? But they don't always require, it's not something that they say, okay, well, we don't do business with you if you haven't sold $100,000 worth of hot sauce. What they're going to say is, okay, yes, we can make the hot sauce, but you have to buy 10,000 bottles at a time. There are not as many small batch run producers of food products as there are large. And what I mean by that is there's co-packers and private labels. There's a handful of them that can produce smaller runs of product. And what I mean by that is 500 bottles, maybe 800 bottles, maybe even 200 bottles. They can do it on a smaller scale. And for you, and I'll use just his first name, Jim. Jim, down in the description, I will put a list. I have a handful of lists for different co-packers, of course, as you know. There is a company, there's actually two that come to mind right now, that I will put down in the description, and you can click on that link, and they actually make small batch runs of hot sauces, and they actually can formulate it for you, utilizing, of course, your recipe, or they have actually pre-existing recipes for hot sauces, and they just put your name on it. So it's actually a great idea. My wife and I have looked into this because we're always looking to expand our business, our food business online, and hot sauces are a great way. It's very inexpensive But you'll be very interested to check that link down in there, and I'll put it on there. There's 2 companies that I'll put. So to answer the question, they don't necessarily require a sales history, okay? They're going to just set up a minimum for you, and then normally that'll be quite a few up front, a few hundred to a couple thousand to start. And very few companies will do only a couple hundred or so. But yes, they do it for you. And if you've got a recipe, as you mentioned here, it looks like in your thing, you've been working on it for a few years, they can definitely take that recipe and formulate it and put it into the bottles with your label, and you're good to go. From there, though, I would recommend you can do a little research and contact them first. Don't place an order yet, because if you don't have a grocery store, if you don't have interest like online, if you don't have an online website, if you're not selling to Amazon FBA or going through like a Whole Foods or a grocery store like Kroger or something to that effect, don't dump your money into buying a bunch of them that are going to sit there in your house and you're going to wonder, how do I sell them? You got to stir up interest in it first, and maybe even get some orders or POs, and then have your co-packer make it for you and ship it to the company, okay? So that is definitely the route I would recommend, because if you dump money into it, it could be sitting there and you're not doing anything with it. So you got to create some interest first. Family and friends, by the way, is good. Don't get me wrong. That's a great place to experiment with your product. But in the long run, your family and friends are not going to buy 800 bottles worth of your hot sauce, obviously. So you don't want to dump your money into that just yet. Okay, and let me go down here, Okay, so here's another great question. I'll do one more and then I'll wrap up this video. Okay, so from one of my other subscribers, he had a question. This was in regards to the pricing video. I did a video recently in regards to, in regards to how to figure out the price of your food product. Now, this question was pretty simple and to the point, and it's good. It's a good question, but it was a little more difficult to answer, and I'll explain. So if a product costs me $1, not including the labor, how much should I sell it for? I can't tell you the answer to that magical question, but I will explain why I can't tell you that. Okay, so this can vary. The reason why is if a product costs you $1, right, and you want to sell it, you want to figure out how much can I actually put it as a retail price. Couple questions. Are you taking the product once it's done and shipping it to a food distributor who will then turn around and sell it to retailers? Because your cost and what you're going to send it to the wholesaler or the distributor is going to have a big factor. They have to have a margin for themselves before they even ship it out to a retailer, okay? Now, if it costs you $1 and you have a website and you sell it online, you're not selling on eBay, you're not selling on Etsy or Amazon, you're selling on your website, how much should you sell it for? Well, it's going to be dependent upon the fees that are involved with the website. When you create a website, you have to have a hosting company. Every month you're paying for the hosting, okay? Now, that needs to come into play, and as well any other expense that you use for marketing, promoting, or whatever you may be doing through the website is going to be your business. It's going to cost you money. So if it costs you $1 and you could potentially sell it for 10 or even 100, I don't know what the product is. So you would need to figure out what is the retail product, what's the price range in the marketplace for that product. Just because it costs you $1 doesn't mean you're going to sell it for 100 because the rest of the other people are selling it for 10. You could potentially sell it for 10 or sell it just below that and still make money. But then you have a fee of shipping. How are you going to ship it to your customers? You're going to charge them for that, or you're going to give them free shipping? You can give them free shipping and include some of that money in the retail price. I do that with a lot of products. I give free shipping, but I just raise the retail price and it covers my shipping, okay? But the other way is, are you going to make it and then sell it directly to the retailer? Okay, you're not going to go through the middleman of a food distributor. You're going to sell it to a retail store. That's totally different. Then how much are you going to sell it for? How much could you get it for at wholesale, but you're going directly to a retailer who's going to then mark it up? So there's either going to be a middleman and then the retailer, right? That's you, the middleman, the distributor, and then the retailer, or you and your customer online. Now, the other I guess that's the fourth example. The fourth example would be, is what are you doing if you sell it on Etsy or eBay or Amazon? Guess what? There's fees involved with that too. So how do you figure out a retail price when Amazon's taking 15%? Then you got to ship it too, by the way. Then eBay. What about Etsy? Etsy takes, I think it's 5 or 7%, whatever it may be, 5%. They raised it recently. they take 5% of the fee. Okay, so now determining the retail price is going to be a challenge again, because you got it for $1 or you make it for $1. That's good, that's great, but that's not the final step. Is you need to figure out how much are all these other fees going to impact your retail price. If you sell it for $10, how much of that is actually going to be profit? Because then you've got fees from Amazon. And by the way, when you have a transaction take place online, you need to have a company that processes the transaction. Stripe, PayPal, and about 3 or 4 others. My company, with the 6 stores that we have 2 different, we have PayPal and Stripe. They take care of all the transactions for us, but we have to pay them. So it's really not a simple question to answer, but definitely you could come up with an answer. You've got to figure out how are you selling it. That's the trick. So I hope that explains it the best I could do as far as explanation for it. But it's really kind of tricky and challenging depending upon how you're actually presenting the product to your customers. And I gave you a handful of different examples, so check out which one is actually best for you and go from there. So if you guys have any questions about the questions I just answered, let me know down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.